Good afternoon. I'm Heidi Hutz-Levens, the Communications Manager for Ohio State Parks and Watercraft, and it is my pleasure today to welcome you to the Pymatuning State Park Open House. We have a number of presenters lined up today to give you a chance to see what's new in the park, what's been done in the park, and also answer your questions at the end of today's presentations. But before I start with the introductions, I just want to give folks a little housekeeping. You should all, unfortunately, you'll find that your cameras and your speaker may be muted, but we would love to have input from you. So please use the live Q&A, which you can find at the top of your screen on the right. I will be serving as the moderator to make sure all of our speakers hear your questions and respond to your questions. Some of those questions we will we'll do here as the event, and some of those questions, if we have information, we may ask for some contact information so we can get back to you. So thanks again for taking some time out of your Friday afternoon to be with us, and let's take a look at who we have presenting today. So we have Chris Rear, who is the Pymatuning State Park Manager. In addition, we have Doug Lyons, who is our District Manager. So he is administrator for all of the parks in the Northeast region, including Pymatuning. We're also lucky enough to have Captain Brian Andrews, who heads up the law enforcement efforts for this part of the state. In addition, we have Cindy Orth, a great longtime naturalist. If you haven't seen her programs, I highly recommend them, but she will be here to share a little bit about what she's got going on in the park. And last but certainly not least, we have Kurt Wagner from the Division of Wildlife, one of our partners here at Parks and Watercraft, and he'll be talking about fisheries. And he is actually out of the District 3 Wildlife Office in Portage Lakes. So my guess is he could probably answer a wide range of your questions. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Chris Rear.
Thank you, Heidi. First, I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and also express my appreciation for being here as the park manager. I was installed officially as the park manager at Pymatuning State Park in January of this year, and served a short time in an interim role leading up to that. And what an interesting time to take over an operation like this in the middle of a pandemic. I want everybody on the call to know that I consider feedback to be a primary driver for improvement. So I want to hear from you. If you see something out there that you think I need to know, please reach out to me. At the end of this presentation, there will be contact info for the park office, my email address here at ODNR. And again, I need to hear your feedback. It is definitely what will drive meaningful improvement. Today's presentation is meant to demonstrate how Pymatuning State Park staff, the Division of Wildlife, Parks and Watercraft, and other partners from ODNR divisions are dedicated to meeting our stated mission. It is my hope that today we can give you a glimpse of what's happening, what's coming next, and a who's who of contributors that help us meet our stated mission to provide exceptional outdoor recreation and boating opportunities by balancing outstanding customer service, education, protection, and conservation of Ohio State parks and waterways. So how do we accomplish that? It starts right here. These are some of our support staff members, Chuck DeBell, Tim Olson, Bob Mackey. They're the core of our maintenance staff. Kelly Hudnall and Connie Adair, the core of our custodial staff, and Eric Rogers and Joe Christoph manage our water and wastewater operations here at the park. They keep things clean, they keep things working. These folks are as passionate a worker as I have come across in my time as a professional manager, and I just can't say enough good things about how these folks approach their work. I also want to make sure to mention our seasonal staff members. They are another core group that drives our performance here at the park, and we deeply appreciate their passion for the work they do, and all of the things that they do to contribute to the mission. Some of our front office staff, Doug Lyons on the call, district manager. We deeply appreciate his support of what we're doing here at the park, and his oversight and leadership. Betsy Overly, 28 years of service in parks. She is our resident historian, and has provided me with an enormous amount of guidance as I took on this new role. Also in our front office, Connie Alexander runs our campground. Teresa Coder just accepted a position as an administrative professional. She's been a seasonal employee here in the park office, and provides a lot of support with watercraft registrations, cabin check-ins, registrations, things like that. And Cindy Orth, who you'll hear from here in a bit, is our park naturalist. These folks are extremely dedicated, and as you can see by the years of service that these folks have been have put into public service, they are a very important part of what we're doing. And I obviously am the baby of the group. Another critical component of our success here at Pymatuning State Park is our law enforcement arm in Parks and Watercraft. That said, I'm going to turn it over to Captain Brian Andrews, and he will walk through a couple of law enforcement items for the park.
Thank you, Chris. As stated here on our screen, I'm the captain for the Northeast District, which consists of 3 separate work units. And work unit A is what Pymatuning falls under, and as well as Lorain, Medina, Cuyahoga, Lake, and Ashtabula counties. Lieutenant Chuck Stiver is the supervisor for that work unit. He's currently conducting interviews for new hires, which we're excited about. So I told him I'd be happy to pinch hit. It's hard for me to tell who's on the call, etc. Hopefully some of you know me or have met me. I've worked the Lake Fest fireworks for a number of years now, and worked in Northeast Ohio all 32 years of my career with the state of Ohio. Next slide, please. That's me in the younger day on that first one, just FYI. So just in general, these are items to keep in mind. Our officers, our enforcement program, it differs from the county sheriff's department or the city police department in that we generally take the lowest level of enforcement necessary to gain a desired result. And we tend to focus more on education than enforcement. So when we have to, obviously, we take care of business, but it's important for us to, interact with our customers as frequently as possible and then include these safety tips. These are things we see year in and year out and can cause problems and can, ruin your stay when you have to deal with us on another matter. So clearly the speed, especially in a campground, a lot of kids running around, they're on bicycles, they're on, I don't know, the scooters now and the hoverboards, whatever they're called. So just keep an eye out, and understand we'd like to keep everyone safe. Please don't litter. The guys work really hard at keeping the parks. Their job is not to pick up after you. You can help them out by taking care of your own business. Kurt will probably cover some of the feeding of wildlife. It seems like a good idea, but in reality, what generally folks want to feed is not the normal diet and is actually harmful, especially for the geese and the ducks. So, keep that to the petting zoos, I guess. So hitting some of the watercraft side of things, we have a 20 horsepower limit. Obviously, it is a large lake. So, that brings with it special concerns, not getting out. How the weather can kick up in a hurry and you can get in trouble. Boat registrations do expire on March 1st. They're good for 3 years. So if you're not sure, take a look at your sticker on your watercraft and you can determine whether or not you're due up again. Generally, our our registration and titling folks will send out reminders, but some people move around more often than others and may not have gotten that. At this time of year, spring, when the weather is, air temperature is warm, yet the water is still very cold, is a very dangerous time for boaters. We know this going in. Every year in and year out, we'll see incidents occur, and you can save yourself the trouble and a potential disaster if you use thermal protection. Absolutely wear a PFD and make sure you're not overloading your capacity on your vessel. That's typically the two biggest issues we have in the spring. Everybody's itching to get outside, especially now with the pandemic, and we've all been cooped up forever. And we've seen that in the parks with the trails, and we've been really busy. So just make sure you that you're taking care of yourself and you're being safe. And lastly, follow a float plan. So anytime you're going to be out for a full day, half day, somebody should know when and where you're going to be and when you're expected back. That will help tremendously if there is an issue, you have some engine problems, etc. We'll have a pretty good idea when and where to start looking if we need to get out and find some folks. We do have a number of officers that serve that area. As I mentioned earlier, we are interviewing currently for another academy, so we're excited about that, to put some new younger folks out there in the field. And Pymatuning clearly is one of our top priorities for placing one, if not two, of the cadets. We actually had one designated in the last go round about a year and a half ago, but that officer failed to complete his field training successfully, and he resigned prior to being promoted to a full-time. So it was unfortunate, but we do like to keep the bar fairly high and our standards, and if they don't meet them, then we have to take that action. So, but we're looking forward to adding a few more folks. We do have a comment section running, so if anybody has questions for the law enforcement out at Pymatuning, by all means, throw a comment, throw your question on the comment section. I'll be watching that, and I can happily answer some of those questions. Next slide, please. So to wrap up for the law enforcement, how is it that you can get a hold of us? What we do have a pound ODNR or hashtag 6367 number, but I like to remind people that's our 24-hour dispatch. But if it's an emergency, a legitimate emergency, your fastest way to get help, be it the county, be it the city, be it us, be it the state patrol, is just dial 911. That's going to they'll get us on scene as well as other units to take care of business. So in an emergency, by all means, 911 always. If you need an officer for something else, a damage report or something of that nature, by all means, use that dispatch number and you can get a hold of us. So hopefully with COVID hopefully on a downswing, we can get back to doing some special events like the Lake Fest this year, and look forward to seeing everybody out in the parks. And by all means, give me a holler, look me up. Be happy to see you and talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Andrews. We deeply appreciate the work that you do and that of your officers. So I want to take just a brief minute and walk through some history of the key feature of this Ohio State Park, being the lake. It's kind of an interesting story how this came to be, and it certainly is unique across other Ohio State parks, being that we share our key feature, the reservoir, with the state of Pennsylvania. It creates some interesting anomalies, but we have a very strong partnership with the folks across the pond, and I'm looking forward to strengthening that as we move forward. So in the early 1800s, there was some seasonal flooding that started to occur as they started to do some logging in the thick swamp area that existed here at the time. In 1868, the Pennsylvania General Assembly made plans to drain the swamp, and they were interested in converting it to farmland. However, there was some industry developing downstream between here and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and it was decided at that time that the water downstream was more important to those developing industries than a few farms up here. Some of those farms continued to progress. There was some farming of some significance that happened leading up to 1911. The seasonal flooding, as they logged out the areas of the swamp up here, it began to become worse, and they started discussing the possibility of a dam on the Shenango to control some of that flooding. Then in 1913, there was an epic 4-day rain event that raised the waters of that river 17 feet. Kind of unimaginable. There are a couple of photos from Western Pennsylvania from that flood event, and it certainly does look like it was a significant event. Because of the complex nature of the location, being that if they flooded this area, it was going to encompass 2 states, it took nearly 20 years to purchase all of the property necessary and to kind of get through all of the red tape. But in 1931, the funding needs were met, and the project got approved through the Civilian Conservation Corps. There's kind of a neat quote at the top of the slide from at the time, the Pennsylvania governor. All human accomplishments begin with a dream. When I came across that, I really liked that. I'm kind of putting that in my back pocket, and I'm going to carry that with me. It took about 3 years, 7,000 men, but the dam construction is completed in 1934 and does achieve the desired results, basically being the flood control during the wet seasons and a steady flow of water over the dry seasons of summer. Kind of an interesting little blip in time. Westinghouse from Sharon, Pennsylvania had developed an electric torpedo around the 1940 timeline, and they did test those torpedoes in the waters of Pymatuning Reservoir. That electric torpedo ended up being a key component of our victory in World War II. And in 1950, the state of Ohio establishes this area as Pymatuning State Park. Some of the key features that you see today in the state park, we have 3,512 acres of land. The reservoir is 17,090 acres. About 20% of that physically lies in the state of Ohio. We currently have a 373 site Class A campground, and we have 54 basic, standard, and preferred cabins. The park office, located at 6100 Pymatuning Lake Road, park staff's available there for general information and inquiries. We do watercraft registrations here, and we have seasonal dock rentals that we manage here as well. Some fishing and boating items on the lake. We have 5 double-lane boat ramps in the park. We have fishing access causeway. We have a full-service marina at Birch's Landing with boat rental, bait, tackle, some of those items. Historically, they've done rentals on pontoons and fishing boats. And I'm very happy to announce that new for this coming season is kayak rentals at that location. As Captain Andrews mentioned earlier, we have a 20 horsepower limit on Pymatuning. And again, the partnership with Pennsylvania, this is another anomaly of this particular reservoir. There is fishing license reciprocity with Pennsylvania when you are on the water on a boat. Basically, you can fish the entire lake with either an Ohio or a Pennsylvania fishing license. Pymatuning is known as an outstanding fishery, especially for muskie, walleye, crappie, and catfish. And to expand a little bit on the fishery, I'm going to turn it over now to Mr. Kurt Wagner. Kurt?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Appreciate the invite to be here with you guys. Yeah, just real briefly talk about the fisheries in Pymatuning. So my name is Kurt Wagner. I'm with the Division of Wildlife, Fish Management Supervisor for Northeast Ohio, what we consider District 3. And one of our shared resources is Pymatuning Reservoir. So just stepping right in to the next slide. Oftentimes when folks are thinking about fisheries, the first thing that comes to mind is stocking. In a few other slides, I'll also talk about some of the fisheries survey work we do. But just to touch on the stocking side of things, the Ohio Division of Wildlife and the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission do work collaboratively to stock 2 species in Pymatuning. Now, there's plenty of other great sport fish species, bass, crappie, perch, sunfish, that reproduce naturally just fine. But species that are stocked in the Pymatuning include walleye and muskellunge. So Ohio and Pennsylvania stock walleye, some fry, some fingerlings. Of course, we coordinate, our stocking strategy, so we're, one unified program. And each spring we stock the lake with walleye. And this is supplementing natural reproduction that we know is already occurring by walleye. But for the most part, the natural production isn't high enough after year to sustain the fishing pressure and the harvest that occurs on walleye. So that's why we would supplementally stock with walleye. And then muskellunge, they are native to the region. Most reservoirs don't have the appropriate spawning habitat to sustain self-reproducing muskellunge populations. So we stock, and Pymatuning has a long history of being a great muskie reservoir. In recent years, the Ohio Division of Wildlife, go back yet.
Sorry.
In recent years, the Ohio Division of Wildlife has not stocked muskie, and we instead have sort of held back as the Fish and Boat Commission over in Pennsylvania has desired to attempt every other year stockings of larger fish, yearlings, these 1-year-old fish. And so that's great. It's a great attempt and project. So we're letting them do those stockings for a while, and we'll assess how that's working. And so far, it's a good fishery. So all things are looking good on the muskellunge front. Okay, next slide. So in addition to stocking, we also do fishery surveys. And one way we survey the fisheries is actually direct interaction with anglers. And so periodically, the most recent one was 2018, periodically hire seasonal staff called creel clerks to go out and conduct a creel survey. And so this photograph in the slide shows our creel clerk in the red boat interviewing an angler. And this tells us a lot of information that we can compare across time and across reservoirs. And a fairly big table here. I don't expect our listeners to digest the entire table, but a couple of things I did want to point out is kind of shows us what people are fishing for. So that second big column of numbers, we see that about 35% of the anglers interviewed were seeking walleye, another almost 20% seeking crappie, and then just shy of 10% seeking bass. Now, that top row, you'll see anything that bites. That's pretty much for every reservoir. That's going to be the most frequent answer we get is people out there just fishing for whatever bites. So once you get past that, we can see that walleye, bass, and crappie are the most frequently sought after species. Another thing that I think is just really interesting and something to wrap your head around is there's over 2,700 hours of angling effort per weekend day on Pymatuning during the spring and summer months. So just an incredible amount of fishing pressure occurs at Pymatuning. And then lastly, in the bottom left of this slide, we get a lot of our muskie information from the Muskie Angler Log, an online angler diary where fishermen can enter their catches. Last year, 2020, the largest muskie reported to this program was a 48-inch muskie, and about 1 out of 5 fish that were reported into the system were over 42 inches. So a great size structure of muskie in the population right now. Okay, next. And lastly, and I put a picture on purpose here of our colleagues, the Fish and Boat Commission. This is Tim Wilson, the fisheries biologist over out of Linesville. Division of Wildlife and Fish and Boat Commission work absolutely hand in hand on our fisheries surveys to be on the same page, agree on regulations, share harvest and trapping data. And this is just a figure from some recent walleye gill nets that the Division of Wildlife has done. And essentially what this figure in the upper left is showing, we have the Northeast Ohio is our regional bar, and then of course statewide for Ohio. And this is showing our catch rates of walleye in our gill nets. So basically a population abundance. And consistently for the past decade plus, the walleye population in Pymatuning has just been fantastic. And even in recent years, almost record numbers of walleye in the system, and good sizes as well. About 1 out of 5, 1 out of 6 fish in our gill net catches were over 22 inches. and a large proportion of the captured fish over 18. So an absolutely fantastic walleye fishery right now. So that's all I have for this open house. My contact number or information was on an earlier slide, and I believe Chris will put it up again. I'd certainly be happy to, go in more depth about Pymatuning fisheries or share this data with anyone who's interested later. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. Much appreciated. So we also, beyond the fishing opportunities that we have here at Pymatuning, we do have some solid hunting and trapping opportunities as well. A majority of the shoreline on the Ohio side is open to waterfowl hunting, as well as shoreline trapping. There is a map on our website. I would highly recommend anybody looking to take advantage of that to get on there and get the map, just to be sure that you are where you're supposed to be. We also have a designated area for deer hunting with archery equipment only in the park. We have about 1,600 acres of open hunting areas north of the causeway. And again, interesting and specific to this lake and the agreement that we have with the state of Pennsylvania, all of the islands in the lake, regardless of their geographic location, whether they lie in Pennsylvania or Ohio, all of the islands are subject to Pennsylvania hunting laws and regulations. That's an important footnote for anybody looking to hunt out of on one of the islands. The major hunting and trapping opportunities that are in this park include ducks, geese, turkey, deer, muskrat, beaver, rabbit, and squirrel. I'd also like to give a shout out to our local wildlife officer, Officer Jason Warren. Again, we appreciate his service and his attention to the park. He has 13 years of service with the Division of Wildlife. And I would like to encourage everybody, if you see some kind of wildlife violation that you need to report, please call 1-800-POACHER and provide them some very specific details about what you witnessed, what you heard, whatever the case might be, and in hopes that we can address that problem. So we'll move into some specifics with the features of the park. I'll start with the campground. Currently, we have 373 sites in the campground. We offer non-electric, electric, and full hookup sites. We have multiple premium lakefront sites, 5 shower houses, 2 RV dump stations, a camp store, a beach, playgrounds and swings. There are 11 restroom facilities, volleyball and basketball courts, an amphitheater, picnic pavilion, and our campground is 100% pet friendly. Some of the improvements that we did in the campground in the last year, we installed a new campground sign at the entrance. We opened a new shower house in May of 2020 that is located in the center section. It is heated and it is open year round. We also converted 15 campsites in the north section of the campground this past year to 50 amp full hookup sites. We had some drainage issues in the south section. We had some wet campground sites. I'm happy to report to you that we have went in there, we installed new drainage, and it is working very, very well. We have dried those sites up nicely. Some of the feedback I heard from campers last year, the shoreline was kind of getting overgrown, and we were kind of losing a lot of that accessible shoreline at the back of the campground. So we took advantage of that this winter, and we have went through all 3 sections and cleared almost all of the brush from the entire shoreline in the campground. So the campers that return year after year, if there's any of you that happen to be watching, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at your next visit. We also installed a new roof on the camp check-in building and some touchless lighting in the shower house. Pymatuning also has cabin rentals. We have 21 preferred cabins. Those cabins, which you'll see pictured there on the right, have a gas fireplace, full-size kitchen and appliances. They sleep 6, they have air conditioning, and all are newly renovated. We do also have ADA cabin options if you need that option. We currently have 7 standard cabins. These are basically set up the exact same way as a preferred cabin, except that they lack the luxury of air conditioning. We have 26 basic cabins. These cabins are more of a one room with a small bathroom, apartment-sized kitchen. Those are seasonally rented May 1st to October 31st, but they are very popular. The cabin area has a designated boat ramp. We have seasonal boat dockage. As a courtesy, there's a small beach available, 2 playgrounds. We have Wi-Fi available at the park office as well as the cabin pavilion, and we do have pet-friendly cabin options available as well. Obviously, the last year has been pretty interesting based on the nature of the pandemic. I wanted to highlight just a very interesting metric. State parks across Ohio, and I think most outdoor recreation locations really experienced a huge uptick in use last year, driven by the fact that there wasn't a whole lot of other options for folks. In 2019, Pymatuning State Park, between the cabins and the campground, hosted 27,065 overnights. In 2020, we beat that by 25 nights. Now, what's interesting about that is that this state park was closed, basically closed for business for just about 60 days. So when we returned just before Memorial Day, really our visitation went through the roof. Some projects throughout the park that we completed in the last year. We did quite a bit of shoreline protection, which was basically the placement of riprap, and that occurred around all of the boat ramps in the park. We installed all new targets at the archery range, new metal roofs on all of the picnic shelter houses throughout the park. We updated the kitchens in 5 of our basic cabins. We installed new LED boat ramp lighting at Paid and Aaron Boat Ramp. And we have some very exciting nature center renovations that are currently underway. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Pymatuning State Park's naturalist, Cindy Orth, and she's going to walk through some nature center renovations and some programming that we expect will be upcoming when the pandemic settles a little bit more. Cindy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chris. I just, first of all, want to say that I have been with the state park system for about 35 seasons of my life. I worked as a park ranger, which is currently what you now call the natural resource officer, for 8 years. I was a seasonal naturalist at Mosquito Lake State Park for about 23 years. And now I'm a permanent employee at Pymatuning State Park for the last 3 years. As you all know, this last summer was anything but typical. It has taken me outside of my comfort zone and has thrown me for a loop. I am glad for the opportunity to get outdoors, as you can see from this picture on your screen. I like to find new things. I'm delighted when I can share the joy of nature with you, the park visitor. When I can help you see things in a new way, and when I can awaken and rekindle your appreciation for the gifts of nature. When I can teach a new skill and I can brighten your day with a nature antidote, that's a perfect way, in my opinion, to stay healthy. So now I'd like you to join me as I highlight some of the aspects at Pymatuning with which I am directly involved. Slide change. The strange year of 2020 has brought many new projects to Pymatuning State Park, as you already have heard from Chris. One to which I am closely connected is the Nature Center project. The camp office and store were relocated in the summer of 2020 back to the original check-in station. And once that change took place, it was decided to turn the old camp store into a nature center. This newly designed center, slated to open in the summer of 2021, will provide visitors with opportunities to learn, explore, discover, and participate in hands-on activities and programs. Some of the many displays and activities will be a hunt and find pollinator mural, which will engage the visitor in a search for the monarch butterfly in all of its life stages, for the predators of the monarch and other pollinators as well. There will be flip and spin discovery panels, which allow the guests to learn some of the adaptations of plants and animals that enhance pollination. There will be a bald eagle display highlighting our national majestic bird that has found a great habitat here at Pymatuning Lake and established itself in many nests in the area. We'll have a wetland exhibit. We'll have a woodland exhibit. Both of these will highlight some of the natural local wildlife that we have in the area. We'll have an eagle span where you can relate yourself to the size of any of 4 of our different raptor species in Northeast Ohio. There will be a bird feeding station, a life-sized eagle nest exhibit, taxidermy mounts, and so much more. So please come and join us. Keep an eye to the Facebook page, and you should be able to find out exactly our opening date as we come to know it. Go ahead, change the. So I love to do programming with the public. That is really my thing. And to be on a computer all day, not so much. But when I can be out there instructing kayaking or taking people on kayaking adventures, doing a stand-up paddleboarding classes, teaching fishing or archery programs to the public, doing any number of wildlife programming and any number of fun activities, ice cream making without electricity, broomstick making, butterfly programs, just a real variety, nature walks and campfire programs. So please watch to find out whether we will be opening soon. I sure hope so for programming. And then lastly, I would like to touch on one other topic, and that is, Chris, go ahead and change the slide. That is the hiking trails. So here at Pymatuning, we have 3 hiking trails currently: Whispering Pines Trail, Beaver Dam Trail, and the Paynerum Trail. Those all take the visitor through varying ecosystems: wetlands, woodlands, wet woodlands. They take you along the shoreline of Pymatuning Lake. They take you through back to a beaver dam and a beaver meadow area. And coming new in 2021, we have a new trail planned. This I'm very excited about. It's in a mature woods. It is a loop overlook trail that will take the visitor across a stream, and you'll be able to look out at the lake on many areas of the trail and also into the campground area from this loop. And that being said, I would like to let you know about a really exciting project here in the state of Ohio. It is a new app which will be available in the Apple and Google app stores. It is an app called Detour, and it will allow anybody in the state of Ohio, or for that matter from any other state, to come here and take a detour in the state of Ohio on one of our many trails. It will include all state park trails, Division of Wildlife trails, nature area and preserves, any of the trails within our state park system and forestry. It will also include access to the National Park Trail at Cuyahoga Valley National Park, to Metro Park trails, county trails, city trails. This app is downloadable. It will probably be online maybe the 1st of April for you all to download, and it will give you the opportunity to follow yourself on the trail, whatever trail that may be. I encourage you to download this app. It's called Detour Ohio Trails. That being said, Chris, the portion of my part of this program is complete.
Thank you, Cindy. Okay, so what's coming next at Pymatuning? In November of this year, we are planning on refurbishing 2 of the boat ramps in the area, one being Birch's Landing, the other being Neubauer's. That will include the ramp surface, the adjacent seawalls. So look for those to close down probably in November, and we will be targeting the following spring season to have those wrapped up and ready for use. This next item I'm very excited about. I know my maintenance team is very excited about, and I'm certain my campers, the campers that attend the park here, will be very excited about. And that is the electric distribution in the campground. The Division of Parks and Watercraft is prepared to invest a large amount of money into upgrading our electric distribution. My best guess is that this system was designed and installed probably in the late 60s, and certainly today's RVs have a much larger need than what could have been anticipated at that time. So we're very excited to announce that that will be coming, and I will keep the public informed either through our Facebook page or through other means as more details arise around that. We have some major road work coming. We're planning to redo the road from Cabin Beach to Birch's Landing, as well as the stretch of Marvin Road that comes in to Cabin Beach. Last year we did some pothole filling. It's certainly far better than what anybody may have experienced last summer, but that kind of repair doesn't last. That was just kind of get us through until we can mill up the current road surface and relay some pavement. We have a new wastewater treatment facility coming to the main beach. We're going to continue the LED lighting conversion at the balance of the boat ramps in the park. We plan to do touchless drinking fountains and gray water stations throughout the park. That will be starting here in the next month. We'll be picking those off kind of a handful at a time. And lastly, I want to go over a couple of statewide initiatives that will certainly be visible to our visitors here at Pymatuning. The first is signage. There's currently a 3-year plan in the state of Ohio to align all signage in all state parks, make it consistent. There has been a sign manual developed, and like I mentioned, that will be a 3-year turnover. And I think that will be a very visible, helpful item to our visitors. The second item is uniforms. Another push, I think you'll see some of this come to fruition this summer. We want our people to be more readily available, visible, I guess, to our park guests. If you need help, we want you to be able to find it. And if we are all wearing the same uniforms all the time at every state park in Ohio, that should make that certainly a lot easier to do. The last is we are converting a lot of the things that we sell in the camp store to a more sustainable type of product, trying to reduce the use of styrofoam coolers and things like that. So you may see some of those new products in the camp store. With that, I have my contact information here for the park office. I'm going to back up to Kurt's slide so that if anybody needs to capture his information, you can do that as well. I'll leave it on this one just for a minute or so while we address questions and answers, and then I'll back up to Kurt. So if you need to capture that, you certainly can do that. Again, I want to reiterate that I believe in feedback. I want to hear from you. And it is really the negative feedback that will drive improvement. So please don't be afraid to reach out to us and let us know what you're seeing or what you think you might need. So at that point, I'll turn it back over to Heidi and we can address some questions.
Thanks, Chris. First of all, that was a whole lot of great information in a fairly short time, but I have to confess we have no questions right now. We can hang around for a minute or two to make sure that none of our attendees have any questions. But right now we did have some interest in the app, so I put some additional information in the Q&A. I guess it's a great time for me to promote the ways that you can stay in touch with Ohio State Parks and Watercraft. We have a state parks and a state boating Facebook page. So we highly recommend you to like both of those pages so that you can follow us for programming announcements, such as when the Detour mobile app will be available for public download. We also have a Twitter account, and you can find us on YouTube. So there are lots of ways you can reach us. And of course, one of the quickest ways to reach us is through our website at OhioDNR.gov. And you can always reach us with an email. We have recently updated and redesigned our website. So there are lots of ways to find the information you need, whether it's looking for boating registration information or making reservations to camp or stay in one of Pymatuning's really great cabins. So it looks like we do have our first question. And the question is the fish cleaning station going to be expanded in the cabin area?
So currently there are no specific plans, but I'm interested to hear what an expansion might look like. I guess I would encourage that individual to grab my email address. We're certainly open to ideas, but at this point there is no specific plan for an expansion. It certainly will be open and available in its current state.
Okay, we're caught up again. No more questions. I encourage if anyone else has anything else they thought about, they wanted to share. Any of our presenters, they can unmute and add their last points.
Heidi, I'm going to move the slide back to Kurt's contact info just in case anybody needs to capture it, just so you know what's happening.
Well, that woke me up. And for Kurt, if any of you have any questions regarding the fishing scene at Pymatuning, now would be the time to ask. It looks like we have another question here. Okay, it's about the electric upgrade. Is this going to be 30 or 50 amp, and will it be across the park?
So the details are not complete at this point. I suspect that it will be a combination of the two. Maybe I can defer to Doug if there's any additional information available, but again, I will share as much information as I have. It's just I don't think those details are established at this point. I know there has been a budget number earmarked for the project. And again, I suspect that we will start with the major components and then work through as much of that campground as we possibly can with the designated amount of money.
Yeah, Chris, that's accurate. It's still under design, so we will not know, but 50 amp is the goal. So it's currently still under design.
Thanks, Doug. We have another question about the 20 horsepower limit change. I think on Captain Andrew's slide, there was something about the 20 HP limit. Could somebody address that?
So Heidi, what is the question?
It is, when did the 20 HP limit change start? Or just when did it change? Sorry.
So I believe for a number of years, Pymatuning was under either a 9.9 or a 10 horse limit. but it has been at least a handful of years since they upped that to the 20 horse limit. But I don't know specifically when that change occurred.
Hopefully that was the answer you were looking for. If not, I always highly suggest folks to call in the park if they want to have a conversation about something like horsepower changing or a new project like the electric upgrade. And looks like we've got other questions. This is a great, fantastic question. Are there opportunities for youth volunteers?
So I'm going to say yes. It's volunteers are something that I fully intend on trying to take advantage of. They're just in this last year with trying to learn the job, manage the park. It's just not something that I have been able to really spend any significant amount of time on. However, if there are youth groups, other groups that are interested in volunteering, please contact the park office. I certainly am willing to connect you with the folks in Columbus to get the paperwork set up, that kind of thing, and get some decide on some projects that we could get done. I feel very strongly that we are going to need some volunteer help. So I'm certainly willing to have those conversations with anybody that would be willing to come chip in their spare time.
Hey, Chris, on that last question. So the previous horsepower limit at Pymatuning was 9.9. In 2008, it changed to 20 horsepower.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks. Great clarification. I've got another question. How many waist highs have been changed?
So at this point, I just received the last order of waist highs from Norwalk Concrete, and I have the contractor lined up to do the first one. We've basically been waiting on some weather. So what the plan is to do one. This is kind of an unknown undertaking to both myself and the contractor that we have engaged. So we decided we're going to do one to start with and see kind of what that entails. And then we're just going to roll from there and do groups of probably 3 or 4. So at this point today, there are 0, but I have all of the equipment. I just received the last load a few days ago, and that work will start very soon.
Thanks, Chris, and I'll admit I didn't know what a waist high was, so thank you for that question. All right, so we've got another question about camping. The question reads, is there still going to be camping with law enforcement again? I don't know if that's a program that our officers, or if that's about law enforcement in the campground. So
it is, and I think the question is relating to an annual event that Pymatuning has hosted called Cops and Kids. And basically there is a group of law enforcement that hosts, I think primarily inner-city and urban youth for a weekend camp out. Everything that I've been told is that it is a fantastic event. From what I know about that event, there couldn't be a more important time to kind of continue that activity. I would certainly love to be a part of that as the host here at Pymatuning. Unfortunately, last year, the pandemic caused that to be canceled. And I think right now it's kind of a waiting game that we are all in, kind of waiting to see what the next couple months will bring. I can tell you that I think everybody involved in that project really wants to see that come back. So I guess what I can say is that I'm sure all efforts are going to be made to have that happen again this fall. It's just there's so many unknowns at this point in time. We can't say with any certainty if it will happen this fall.
With that last question, we appear to be caught up, and we've got about 5 minutes left of the hour we allotted. So unless we don't have any more questions and no more comments from our presenters, I think we'll wrap this up. Chris, you want to end this for us?
Sure. Again, I just want to thank everybody for showing up today. This is a new endeavor for all of us, but we appreciate your participation. And I can't reiterate enough how important your feedback is to me personally, and I think just to the park network in general. I don't see every part of the park every day as much as I would love to. So if you see something, please say something. I'm sure law enforcement would say the same kind of thing. If you see something, please report it and give us the opportunity to address it. With that, I appreciate all the presenters, and I wish everybody a good day and appreciate it.